Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Richard and I am the Bull Rider. And today I want to give you my top 5 tips on how to winterize your car for storage. And unfortunately for a lot of you, you live in an area where it might snow for 6 months out of the year. And even if you do have all-wheel drive like I have in my Gallardo Superleggera, you might not want to drive your car the whole entire winter. And I want to give you these tips so when the spring and the summer finally does roll around again and you want to drive your car, you won't have any issues whatsoever. And my number one tip for you is to put your battery on a battery tender. And I recommend this for pretty much every car that I own. If I don't drive my car for at least 2 days, it's gonna go on a battery tender. And I don't think anyone really wants to buy a new battery, so I like to prolong the life of my battery as long as possible. And if you keep the car disconnected, let's say, instead of putting it on a battery tender, you might have issues with your engine control unit, your dashboard, or other control systems in your car resetting to factory default values instead of the North American or Canadian values that your car came with from the dealership. So definitely keep your car on a battery tender instead of disconnecting it for the winter to, 1, prolong your battery life, and 2, to also ensure that you don't have any sort of weird electronic issues when you go ahead and start it up in the spring. So in the card above, I left a link on how to install a battery tender in your Lamborghini Gallardo. And in the description down below, I left a link for the battery tender that I recommend for both the Lamborghini Gallardo and pretty much every other car out there. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. My number 2 recommendation before you pack your car away for the winter is to fill it up with a tank of gas. And this is even more crucially important since a lot of gasoline has ethanol in it. Ethanol is hygroscopic, meaning that it likes to absorb water. And what might happen over time is if you don't fill up your tank and you just have a minimal amount of fuel and ethanol in the bottom of your gas tank, the ethanol might become super saturated with water and a phase separation will occur, meaning that the gasoline and the ethanol separates from the water that's located inside of the ethanol. And all this water will settle to the bottom of the tank in the worst possible location. And then when you go ahead and start up your car in the summer, you might have a big gulp of water going into your engine instead of gasoline. So definitely avoid that and fill up your tank. And that leads me to my number 3 tip for winter storage, and it is to put in a good fuel stabilizer. So after you fill up your tank with fresh gasoline, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna put in a fuel stabilizer right after you fill it up, and then by the time you get it home, your gasoline will be mixed well enough with this fuel stabilizer and you'll be good to go to put it away for storage for the winter. And I got this, it's Stabil. Any generic fuel stabilizer will work. I left a link down below for this. And I like to have this on hand for any generator that I have or any gasoline that's sitting for a long period of time, usually more than 6 months. And this fuel stabilizer will ensure that the gasoline over time doesn't lose its octane rating. And when you go ahead and start up the car in the summer, you don't have really bad gas going into your engine. So definitely something to look into, and it is very cheap insurance. And my number 4 tip is gonna focus on the tires. And my tip with that is to make sure that the tires are filled up to the factory recommended specifications. And you can find these pressure ratings inside of the door of the driver's side of your car. And before you put it away for winter, make sure that the tires are pressurized to the ideal pressure and you don't get any flat spots that might cause you to have to get new tires in the spring and in the summer. Last but not least, I want to recommend that you wash the car very thoroughly and ensure that, especially inside of the wheel wells and the control arms and the underbody, is very, very, very clean. And it seems like earlier and earlier in the year, municipalities and states like to put salt down on the roads, and it wreaks havoc. Even with an aluminum suspension, even with an aluminum body, you will get corrosion on the bottom side of your car. So pay very special attention to washing your car and making sure that every single piece of salt that could be on your car is off of your car before you put it into storage. And with that, after you wash your car, I recommend that you cover it with a very soft car cover. In the card above, I have a video that shows you the recommended car cover for the Lamborghini Gallardo that will also work for the Huracan or the Aventador or pretty much any supercar out there, and for a very affordable price. And then on top of that, when I'm putting my car into storage, I also put a drop cloth on top of that, because the very soft, pliable car cover that I recommend is also a little bit thin. And naturally, dust is going to get into those areas, and you don't want to have a dirty car at the end of the day when you unpack it in the spring. So what I recommend is you put a drop cloth on top of the car cover, and your car will be thoroughly protected when you go ahead and uncover it for the spring. And those are my top 5 tips. If you follow these tips, you are gonna be set to go when it comes to the spring and driving your car again and making sure everything is good to go. So with that, I wanna thank you for watching this video. And if you like this video and you got something out of it, please consider giving it a like. And if you want more videos like this, please consider subscribing. And until next time, thanks.